Hey guys, today we are making a Tres Leches cake. This is a classic Mexican dessert made with a perfectly soft sponge cake soaked with a blend of 3 different kinds of milk. Let's get into it. We're starting by greasing a 9 by 13 inch pan. You can use either butter or nonstick spray here. And then we're going to get started on our sponge cake. The cake is obviously the most important part of this recipe. You want it to be soft enough that it can soak up all of that milk, but not too soft where it gets soggy. So we're starting by separating the egg whites from the egg yolks. I'm using 9 eggs here. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's really essential in creating that perfect texture. And we're going to start by beating our egg whites. You're going to continue to beat these until we get those soft stark white peaks that form, and I like to beat on medium speed with my hand mixer just so that I have a lot of control. You can also do this using a stand mixer if that's all you've got, or with a whisk if you feel very strong. So we'll beat until soft peaks that look like this are formed, and then we're going to add our cup of sugar in small increments. I like to do about a quarter cup at a time until I've used it. After you add that first quarter cup, you're going to beat the egg whites and the sugar until it's incorporated, and then you'll continue adding sugar in that 1/4 cup increment and beating until it's incorporated, and you're going to continue doing this until you've added that entire cup of sugar. And you'll notice that as you do this, the entire mixture begins to thicken and become fluffy and almost silky and shiny in color. This is exactly what we want, and this does take some time, so be patient here. Even once you've added that entire cup of sugar, we're going to continue beating the egg whites together with it until we've got stiff peaks that are formed. It should look a little something like this. Now at this point, you're going to want to clean off your beater or use a different attachment. We just want a clean attachment here, and we're going to beat together the egg yolks in a separate bowl until they turn this kind of light pale yellow color. You'll see things really change here in this video. They become pale and almost foamy in texture, and that's exactly what we want. We want them to be thick and light and foamy, and this color is exactly what you're looking for. So once we've achieved that, we're going to go ahead and fold these fluffy egg yolks into our fluffy egg whites, and make sure you get all of the egg yolks evenly incorporated in here. But the key is to be very gentle while you're combining these. I know in baking you hear the term fold a lot, but it's really important here at this step that you are folding. We're not mixing aggressively. We are gently with a spatula just folding these two fluffy egg mixtures into each other. The reason that I stress this is that we really put so much work into creating these fluffy textures, and that's what's going to give the cake its spongy, light, airy texture. And if we were to overmix here, it could deflate all of that fluffiness and just ruin the cake. So once those are evenly incorporated, we're going to grab our flour and we're going to combine it with our baking powder. So I've got 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder and 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Just whisk those together to incorporate them, and then we're going to add the flour into that egg mixture. And again, we are folding here. You will have to fold for a little bit longer just to get all of that flour evenly incorporated. We don't want any dry clumps here. But again, it's really important to be gentle here, to fold carefully, not to overmix. And as soon as all of the clumps of flour are gone and you don't have any more dryness in this mixture, your batter is done. So at this stage, we are ready to get our oven preheated and pour this batter gently into our greased cake pan. You'll see here that the batter doesn't really spread easily, so we are going to use our spatula just to gently distribute this batter in an even layer in the cake pan. And once it's all evenly distributed, I do like to kind of shake the pan or like pat it down on my counter just to make sure it's an even layer. And then it's going to go into the oven for about 20 minutes or until a toothpick comes out clean from the center. While the cake is cooling, we're going to prep our Tres Leches concoction. So I'm using a blend of sweetened condensed milk, evaporated milk, and whole milk. Now it's up to you the quantities that you want to use here, because some people like a super wet Tres Leches cake. I like it to be just enough of the milk mixture to soak into the cake, but not to be wet underneath. Anyway, I'm using 1 can of sweetened condensed milk, 1 can of evaporated milk, and 1/2 cup to a cup of whole milk. You kind of decide on the whole milk depending on how moist and wet you'd like your cake to be. And once the cake has cooled completely, we're gonna go ahead and poke holes in it using a fork. You could use chopsticks, really anything small and pokey will work here. The point of this is just to create some holes where the milk can really get into the cake and fill in all of those light, airy pockets in our sponge cake. Then we're going to pour all of our milk mixture over the cake and just watch as it soaks up all of this milk. It stuns me every time. I always think it's too much milk, and it's always perfect. So just make sure you get all of the milk in your pan on top of the cake, and then we're going to cover it and refrigerate it. Overnight is best, just to really make sure the cake has time to soak up all of that milk. And once your cake has soaked for at least 3 hours or up to overnight, we're going to make a whipped cream to go on top. I'm just combining heavy cream, powdered sugar, and vanilla extract and beating until soft peaks form. I'm really getting my money's worth out of my hand mixer with this recipe, let me tell you. And then we're going to add our whipped cream over top. You do not have to do this in dollops. Honestly, you can just pour the whole bowl on top of your cake and then just spread it out gently with a spatula. You could totally use a piping bag and a piping tip and get really fancy here if you want, but I actually like the look of just gently spread whipped cream with a spatula. I don't think you have to overdo it or overcomplicate it for it to look really beautiful, especially since we're topping it with a dusting of cinnamon. I don't think you need to go overboard with the decorations here. The cinnamon step is totally optional, as is the strawberry step, but I just think that these two toppings together bring out the flavors really beautifully in this cake and add just a little pizzazz on top. And that is all there is to it. From here, you're ready to slice into your cake and serve. This cake is just so beautiful and simple to decorate, but so delicious and perfect to serve for birthdays, celebrations. It's excellent when paired with coffee. Like a cup of café con leche is chef's kiss. And yeah, I hope you guys give this a try and let me know what you think in the comments. Enjoy. Buen provecho.